About the sexual exploitation of children in care, Irish journalists are very quick to point the finger over at Britain or elsewhere. But you know what? We have a big problem in Ireland, and there's lots of questions that we have to ask and we want the answers for. Now, let's look at what has happened and come out about sexual exploitation in Britain. Now, mainly because of the freedom given on Twitter or X by the buying out of Elon Musk, the whole issue of child rape and rape jihad or grooming gangs of the rape and sexual assault on young girls, mainly English and British girls, caused by groups and gangs of Pakistani Muslim men has been rampant, we find, in the UK since the late 1980s. It was flagged then first, but it only really became an issue in the late 2010s. Only in the last 15 years has it really been talked about. Why is that? Because the PC establishment, because they're dripping cultural self-loathing, believed that the rampant rape, gang rape of young girls was worth the price. That's what they believed, and that's why they kept so quiet. They were afraid of being called names. They were afraid to upset the Pakistani community, so they kept their mouths shut. And those who suffered were the young, white, Christian girls in England. Young British girls in Britain were thought by the political establishment to be expendable. Their rape and sexual assault was a price that the political establishment believed it was worth paying to keep quiet and not upset the Muslim Pakistani minority that they have in Britain. Only because of Elon Musk and a few small number of brave, outspoken people in Britain, and also a few journalists, was the issue of child exploitation and gang rape of young children brought to the fore, especially in the last few weeks. The thing is, and what kind of numbers are we talking about? Well, we do know for certain that we are talking about, at least in the town of Rotherham, which isn't a big town, I've been there myself, that 1,400 girls were sexually assaulted or raped by Pakistani Muslim gangs. Now, if you extrapolate that, what happened in Rotherham and Rochdale and Oldham and all these places, now Lord Pearson of Rannoch has estimated that we are talking about 250,000 young girls. A Labour MP, I think Sarah Champion, thought that, well, she estimated very roughly there was 1 million people. But if you extrapolate from Rotherham and know that it's taken place in at least 16 other towns around the UK, and it was 1,400 in Rotherham alone, that whatever the specific number, and we can't give a specific number, we know it's climbing up quite high. When we look at the justification of that, it's kind of a Muslim theological justification, and that non-Muslims are regarded as second class, and their religion or their political ideology, which is to dominate and subjugate others, Islam means submission, that they want the people in Britain to submit. And what better way to do that is to rape young girls, and not only defile young girls, but also humiliate men by their weakness, by not standing up for their family. You could call what has happened, because it was predominantly Pakistani Muslim men, it was like an episode of rape jihad. That's what's been taking place in the UK for 4 decades now. But what about Ireland? Yes, Irish journalists, they love to look over at Britain and Australia and the United States and poke, oh, look at those idiots, that those things would never happen here. That's exactly what is happening here. There was a report last year. 3 researchers at UCD, Canning, Keenan and Breslin, did a report, and they showed that there is systematic sexual exploitation of minors in state care by gangs of men. Now, let's look at some of the figures that we are aware of in Ireland. We know that there is 130 children on the missing files in Ireland at this very moment. We know that in 2022, 2,264 children made allegations of sexual assault or rape to the guards. Now, that's a lot of children. And think of those who haven't made any complaint to the guards. But 2,264 children made allegations of sexual assault or rape to the guards in 2022. We know that by October in 2023, that by October of that year, that 37 children had been reported missing. 36 of those reported missing came from backgrounds that would be refugee or asylum seekers. 6 were Irish children missing in care. The report called Protecting Against Predators pointed out, it interviewed people, I believe 21 people from 14 state agencies, asking questions of their people's experience about the sexual exploitation of children in Ireland. And they found out that there had been many instances, and there had a culture has become allowed to grow up in Ireland where gangs of men go to hotels where these young children, young people are kept in residential care, and they are exploiting or inducing these young girls to go with them, to go with gangs of young men to be sexually abused. We want to know, and I would ask you actually to contact your TD, to write to your TD and go or email your TD or ring up your TD and tell them that we want to know. We need a full national inquiry into the sexual abuse of minors in state care. We want to know how many children have been sexually assaulted while under state care, how many children have gone missing under state care. And also, we want to know who are these gangs of men hanging around the lobbies of hotels, offering drink and drugs and money to young children. We have every right to know. Given what has happened in the UK, as we saw that gangs of foreign men were doing exploitation of young British girls, we want to know who is doing this in Ireland. Britain currently and historically has had a massive problem with sexual grooming gangs of Pakistani Muslims. We want to know, is the same going on here? We've already had a problem with Islamic terrorism. Before Christmas, an army chaplain his throat was cut by an Islamic radical outside Oranmore army camp in Galway. We've had homosexuals who've been castrated and decapitated in Sligo. We've had a Japanese tourist who's been knifed in the back by a Muslim fanatic in Dundalk a number of years ago. The list goes on and on. I believe actually the girl Maria Ward who was killed in Belfast was also murdered by a Somali Muslim. So we want to know, and we have every right to know, how many children are being exploited, why are they being exploited, and who are these gangs of men carrying out the exploitation of minors in Ireland. It's a very important question, and you must be very firm that the price of good relations in Ireland and multiculturalism is not obviously worth a penny when the cost is the safety and security of our children. Multiculturalism has been an absolute disaster everywhere it's tried. David Cameron, Angela Merkel, and they all admitted years ago that the experiment of multiculturalism has been an absolute disaster. Everybody must understand that this is Ireland. Ireland is for Irish people, and it should be Irish ways and Irish laws in Ireland. So my name is Hermann Kelly, President of the Irish Freedom Party, and I'd ask you to contact your TD, raise this issue with them, keep it high on the agenda, don't let it go. And you tell those TDs as well that unless they get up and do the business, that you'll be voting for the Irish Freedom Party come the next general election. Slán is Barak, Gora Magatsa.